perks of running the poetrylab.com is that I get a bird's eye view of what our community is searching for. Every month, I comb through our site's analytics looking for trends and keywords that reveal what poets and writers are eager to learn about. And that got me thinking, how do we navigate this sea of online resources and separate out the gems from the junk? How do we find the tools that actually help us as writers without falling into the traps of predatory contests or sketchy Instagram pages?
Welcome to the Poetry Lab podcast. The Poetry Lab started 11 years ago to help dedicated, self-taught, and formally trained writers find a place in their community to write, read, learn, and collaborate. We help writers tap into their craft with radical self-compassion, unlike anything you've ever seen in a creative writing classroom before. If you're a creative person trying to establish a writing practice in the real world, this podcast is designed to help you carve out the time, the courage, and the inspiration to keep writing your new shit. Are you ready, poet? Let's get into it.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Poetry Lab podcast. I'm Danielle, and I am so excited that you're here with me today. So, I have a question for you. These days, who isn't on a budget? Like, really, who? Please send them my way, because maybe they can buy me some new books. I think we're all trying to rub 2 pennies together to make 15 cents. And sadly, as many millennials learned the hard way, education is expensive in this country. But for writers and artists of all kinds, continuing our education is important. It's a huge part of our writing careers. We have to keep learning and advancing our techniques in order to practice our art forms. So let's talk about some of my favorite free or almost free resources for writers. These things can help you keep writing and learning in the real world, or at least in this advanced simulation in which we all live. I wrote an article about this for the Resource Center about 1.5 years ago, but today I've updated the list of resources and included AI tools. First, I want to talk about writing tools. I know, some of you might be thinking, I have an English degree. I am the writing tool. But listen, technology is here to make our lives easier, not harder. Take Grammarly, for example. Grammarly is a writing assistant. It's like having a second pair of eyes on your work. It catches pesky grammar mistakes, awkward phrasing, and even does an active, ongoing spell check for you. It will give you suggestions for how to improve your writing style if you have the premium option, but there's a free version that gives you almost all of those perks. And I think it's enough, if you have a BA in English, to get by. Sure, we all love to think we're above needing a tool like this. I certainly did until I tried it for the first time. But trust me, it has helped me write some really kick-ass grant proposals, essays, articles. It's that kind of technical writing that Grammarly really helps you shine. And just so you know, we are not affiliates of Grammarly. I'm just recommending it because it's helped me out. Next up, though, I will say, for full disclosure, we are affiliates of Notion. Notion is the ultimate game changer. Notion, honestly, if I could, I would marry it. No offense to my boyfriend, but Notion is life. It's life-giving. It's my favorite thing ever in the whole world. It's an app. It's a desktop program. It's easily accessible through web browsers. And the best part about Notion is that you can use it 100% for free up to about 1,000 pages. Notion is a productivity app that lets you organize all those scattered thoughts into one seamless workspace. You can color code, design, personalize, and create any Notion dashboard that you need for your own creative process. At the Poetry Lab, our whole internal structure is Notion-based. It's a wonderful way to work in a collaboration or with a team. You can preview how we use Notion by getting our guide to craft-focused feedback. I'm not talking about feedback in this episode, but if you go see what that database is, you'll get some insights into how we can build out Notion to be really effective Plus, it has its own AI component, and you can turn almost anything into a wiki. You can take a list and turn it into a calendar with the click of a button. And with the AI component, it can even help you write paragraphs and sentences, generating it like a large language model, as if you were using ChatGPT, but it's all integrated into Notion. You can also have it help improve paragraphs or rewrite something for you, just like you could do in Grammarly. I will say, though, everyone has a free preview of the AI in Notion up to about, 30 uses, and then you do have to pay for it. Most Notion accounts, when paid for, are about $10 a month. But again, it can be used by the average person totally free. And if you're like me and you used to love that paper datebook where you had highlighted sections and color-coded, and you would do fancy writing types and steady calligraphy and stickers. Oh God, so many stickers. You're gonna love Notion. It's like an electronic version of all of that. Moving on, let's talk about resource and learning centers. These are the websites that compile a wealth of information for poets and writers like us. Let's start with an overview of the three juggernauts I'm sure you've all heard of: Poetry Foundation, Poets and Writers, and the Academy of American Poets. Poetry Foundation is known for publishing the prestigious Poetry magazine. The Poetry Foundation is a cornerstone in the poetry community, and in addition to the magazine, they offer extensive resources, including essays, interviews, and a weekly news blast that keeps you informed about the latest things going on in the poetry world. At the Poetry Lab, we're grateful to the Poetry Foundation also for their grant funding. In 2023, we received the Poetry Programs, Partnerships, and Innovations Grant, and we're not the only ones. The Poetry Foundation does do a lot to support other small organizations and literary magazines and even publishers in our community. Academy of American Poets. The Academy runs poets.org, a comprehensive platform for poetry lovers. From a vast collection of poems and poet biographies to writing prompts and educational resources, I'm sure you've been on poets.org before. And just to clarify, poets.org, the Academy, is the blue one, and Poetry Foundation is the red one. That's how I keep them straight. Finally, we have Poets and Writers. This resource is pretty indispensable for most of us, especially because they have a comprehensive database of online and print magazines and journals, places where you can submit your work for publication. They also list MFA programs and writing contests. Of course, you can pay to get the print version or even the digital version of Poets and Writers magazine, but on their website, they have tons of resources, and many of those, if not all of them, are free to access. I'm going to link to all the websites and resources I mentioned today on the show notes page for this episode. So if you're having trouble finding something I'm telling you about and you can't get to it by Googling it alone, just head over to thepoetrylab.com and search for episode number 31, and you will find everything you're looking for. All right, moving away from the big three, there's some other resources I want to make you aware of. New Pages is another fantastic resource, especially for those who are looking to get their work published. They provide reviews of literary magazines and their calls for submissions. If you write fiction or creative nonfiction, DIY MFA is a must visit. They offer a range of free resources, including articles, podcasts, and it's all designed to help you develop your writing practice. Of course, I can't forget to mention our very own Poetry Lab Resource Center. Here we share our collective knowledge with you, written by our weekly columnists, teaching artists, and fellowship team members. We publish a new poetry resource every week. It might be a craft essay, recommended reading list, or even a roundup of our favorite poetry power couples. If you haven't subscribed yet, you're missing out. We send out a newsletter about what we've published every week on Fridays. Lastly, make sure to add Writer's Digest to your list of go-to resources. They provide a wealth of articles, guides, and tools to help you refine your craft, understand the publishing industry, and connect with other writers. Since you're listening to a podcast, it may not be a bad idea to tell you about some other cool podcasts that are all about poetry. One of my top recommendations is The Slowdown Show. It might be a bit somber for some, but it offers a thoughtful exploration of poetry and its place in our lives. They release a new episode every day, and there's always something fresh to listen to. It involves a poet like Shira Ehrlichman, Major Jackson, or Ada Limon reading you a poem and talking about why they selected it. For something a bit more lighthearted, check out Breaking Form, a poetry and culture podcast. This queer-centric show is hilarious and informative with a focus on poetic craft and entertaining interviews. If you're looking for something more academic, try Line Break from Copper Canyon Press. This offers interviews with poets that can deepen your understanding of contemporary poetry. And of course, it'd be wrong not to mention Verses. Verses is a podcast that pits poets against topics for a lively discussion. It's even a little chaotic sometimes, but it's definitely a vibe. And it's also sponsored by the Poetry Foundation. A few literary magazines and other sources that I love. Literary magazines aren't just for reading great works. Sometimes they have excellent learning resources as well. A few of my favorite online magazines that publish poetry but also learning resources are the Virginia Quarterly Review. They have a great online blog called the VQR blog. The Rumpus. Rumpus is been around forevs. It's an online magazine, a total treasure trove of essays, interviews, and book reviews. The Paris Review is another one that's been around for almost 100 years, I think. It's famous for its in-depth author interviews, and it provides an intimate look into the creative process of some of the world's most respected writers. And here's one that's kind of a sleeper pick and maybe the best of all. Sundress Publications' Craft Chaps. If you're looking to dive into some specific writing techniques and really develop out your craft, these are free online mini chapbooks. You can go and download as many as you want. They've been publishing the series for a few years, and there is a lot of content there for you to consume. Sundress Craft Chaps. I'm going to link to it as well as all of the others on the show notes page for this episode. Going beyond just basic websites or literary magazines, here are a few other apps and places where I can really find things to enhance my learning journey. First, the Libby Library app. This app connects you to your local library's collection of ebooks and audiobooks. It includes poetry collections, of course, but it's a really great way to download books straight to your phone or your tablet and read them totally free. You do need a library card for your local library based on your county or your city, but that's not hard to get. You can even do it online these days. Once you have it, you register it with the Libby app, and then you can go forward downloading free books. Another place that you may not be thinking about for learning resources is TikTok, specifically BookTok. We have a new columnist named Kristen Britta at the Poetry Lab Resource Center, and she's been onboarding us all with how to use BookTok. She has 2 articles out already. I'll link to both of them in the show notes, but definitely check them out. The series is called Dispatches from BookTok. Along with learning through social media, I have to admit that I turn to YouTube more often than not when I'm trying to learn something new, like how to reset my internet router. When I was researching even how to set up a podcast, I turned to YouTube videos. There's lots of poetry resources on YouTube. Kelsey wrote an article all about how to find poetry on YouTube, and I will also link to that in the show notes page for this episode. Let's talk about AI tools. Do you remember last summer when every other news article you saw was contemplating death by AI? It was the end of everything. Soon we'd all be unemployed, illiterate, and obeying our robot overlords. I mean, it sounds like Tom Cruise already made that movie, but I was never worried AI would replace us, especially writers. I know these large language models are always learning as they go, but still, have you ever actually read some of the things that these things produce? Why does ChatGPT love the word delve so much? But seriously, AI tools can help make things a little bit easier on you. How? Well, say you're editing a poem and you've come to that moment when it's time to examine your diction closely. You could start by circling all of your verbs and asking yourself if there's a way to make them stronger to add more immediacy to your piece. You could ask AI to generate a list of new verb suggestions for you, sort of like using it as a thesaurus. But you can ask more complex questions to AI as well. For example, you could ask for a list of words of a certain length or syllable count. And you can easily Google all of these things, but AI saves you time and it's easier to curate your results in literal seconds. I might do another whole episode on writing with AI tools, but for now, let's review what free tools are out there. First, there's ChatGPT by OpenAI. It's a versatile AI language model that can assist you with a wide range of writing tasks. It can generate creative content, brainstorm ideas. One of my favorite prompts for ChatGPT is to give it something I've worked on or outlined and to ask it what's missing. There is a slight learning curve to figuring out how to work with a large language model AI. And my best tip is to always just look back at the name. It's called ChatGPT for a reason. You're literally supposed to chat with it. So you ask it conversational questions. Really build out your prompts and ask it exactly what you want from it. And then if you receive an answer that has the word delve anywhere in it, you can always ask ChatGPT to tone it down a notch and rewrite. Another AI writing assistant is called Jasper. It helps content creators, marketers, and copywriters. It excels at generating high-quality content quickly, including blog posts or social media updates. Again, it can't replace us. So while you might get a first draft out of something like Jasper, you always want to go through, fact-check, and edit, and improve the writing quality. I don't suggest that you just let large language models write for you. But like I said, it can assist you, especially if you need help generating a list or some ideas. Gemini is Google's AI-powered assistant. It's now integrated into various Google products. It was launched as part of Google's effort to enhance productivity and user experience. AI combines conversational AI and an advanced machine learning technique to improve smart assistance across its different tasks. Microsoft has their own version called Copilot. It's been integrated into Microsoft 365, which means you can use it in Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Copilot leverages advanced AI models to assist users in drafting, editing, summarizing, and automating some tasks. In Word, it can help you with content generation, and in Excel with data analysis. And that doesn't sound too bad for someone who's terrible at math. But honestly, as I talk about it, all I'm thinking about is the giant paperclip Clippy that used to pop up when you were using Microsoft Word. I mean, if they were really smart, they would have named it Clippy and not Copilot, but I digress. Well, that's it for today's episode. I hope these resources help you on your journey to becoming the best writer you can be without breaking the literal bank. Remember, at the Poetry Lab, we're all about making creative learning accessible to everyone. So if you know of more great free learning resources, please don't hesitate to drop me a line, whether it's an Instagram DM or a message through our website's contact form. I'd love to know what else you think is out there for writers. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and check out the links on the show notes page for all of the information that I've talked about today. That's all for now. I hope to see you soon at the Poetry Lab.